Have you ever wondered if a single sentence could quietly change the direction of your life?
Sometimes it can. A teacher says, "You're not very talented."
A friend jokes, "You're too quiet to lead." Someone in your family once tells you, "People like you don't succeed at things like that." At the moment, these sentences may seem small, but the human mind is powerful. When we hear something about ourselves many times, we slowly begin to believe it.
And when we believe it, we start living as if it were true.
Hi, my friend, and welcome back to the Heal and Grow podcast. Today, we're going to talk about something simple but deeply important: the labels we carry about ourselves.
And why believing in your own potential is often more powerful than believing the opinions around you.
In psychology, there is a concept called self-fulfilling prophecy. It means that when people believe something strongly enough, their actions slowly begin to make that belief come true. For example, imagine a student who believes, "I'm bad at math." Because of that belief, the student studies less. They avoid difficult problems. They feel nervous during tests.
And slowly, their results become worse. Not because they were incapable, but because the belief shaped their behavior.
The belief came first. The result came later.
This happens to many people in life. Sometimes a label becomes a quiet script that guides the way we live.
And here is something I truly want you to remember.
Believe me, you are much more capable than you think.
Many people stop too early. Not because they cannot do something, but because they believe they cannot. If you do not allow those inner limits and outside labels to stop you, you may discover abilities you never knew you had. If we look at history, many great achievements happened because someone refused to believe the limits others gave them. For example, more than 100 years ago, most people believed that humans could never fly. But two brothers, Wilbur and Orville Wright, believed it was possible. They kept experimenting, and eventually they built the first airplane. Another example is the mobile phone. Many years ago, the idea that people could carry a phone in their pocket and talk to anyone in the world sounded impossible. Yet someone believed it could be done. And today it is a normal part of our lives. Your mind works in a similar way. When you truly believe in your potential, your brain begins to search for ways to make that belief real.
Step by step, it looks for solutions, opportunities, and new paths.
And one day, the things that once felt impossible may slowly become possible. I once knew someone who loved drawing when he was a child. He would spend hours sketching characters and landscapes. But one day a teacher casually told him, "You're not very talented at art." The teacher probably forgot about that sentence the next day, but the student didn't. Slowly, he stopped drawing. He told himself, "I'm just not a creative person." Years later, he said something that stayed with me. He said, "I don't know if I'm actually bad at art, or if I just stopped trying too early." Take a moment and think about this. How many things that other people said about you were completely true? In most cases, people are only sharing their opinions, their fears, or their own experiences. They say things like, "You can't do that," or "This is too hard for you." But those are only their thoughts. Believing those words or not is always your choice. If you accept every limiting belief that others give you, you slowly begin to build invisible walls around yourself. You may start thinking you are not capable, not smart enough, or not strong enough.
But the truth is, you are much more capable than you think. Just look back at your own life for a moment. Think about the challenges you once believed were impossible. Yet somehow you moved through them. You learned new things, you became stronger, and little by little you found your way forward. Every difficulty helped you grow into the person you are today. So don't let other people's doubts become your limits. Remember this, you are still learning, still growing, and still capable of becoming far more than you can imagine. Sometimes the greatest loss in life is not failure. It is the possibility we never explored. And this is why labels can be dangerous. They are often just opinions at one moment in time. But when we repeat them in our minds for years, they begin to feel like facts. Society is full of these labels. People say extroverts are confident. Quiet people are shy. Successful people always have perfect grades. Smart people never fail. But real life is rarely that simple. Some quiet people are deep thinkers and strong leaders. Some students who struggled in school later build incredible careers. Some talents appear early. Others appear much later in life. Human potential does not follow a strict schedule. Sometimes it grows slowly, quietly, and unexpectedly. Think about it this way. A label is like a small box. Once we step inside that box, we stop exploring the rest of the room. But life is much bigger than that box. You are bigger than the label someone once gave you. And sometimes the first step toward freedom is simply asking one question. Is this belief really true about me? Or is it just something I believed for a long time? Maybe someone once told you, you're too quiet. You're not confident. You're not talented. But those words were only opinions at a moment of time. They are not the final story of your life. The truth about who you are is still being written every single day. With every skill you learn, every challenge you face, and every time you try again, you are not a finished product. You are a work in progress. So if there is a label you have been carrying for many years, maybe today is a good moment to look at it again. Ask yourself, is this label helping me grow or quietly holding me back? If it is holding you back, you do not need to fight it. You can simply begin to step beyond it. Because believing in your potential is often the first step toward creating it. What if some of the things you're holding on to were never really you? Not your thoughts, not your fears, not even the voice in your head that keeps telling you who you are. And yet, you've been carrying them for so long that they started to feel like your identity. Welcome to the Heal and Grow podcast, a quiet space where you can slow down and gently come back to yourself. If your mind feels heavy, or something inside you feels stuck, this moment is for you. Because today we're not going to fix anything, and we're not going to try to become someone new. We're going to do something softer, something deeper. We're going to let go of what was never really you in the first place. Most of the time, we don't even see what we are carrying in our mind. We wake up, we pick up our phone, and our thinking starts right away. What do I need to do today? Am I doing enough? What if I fall behind? These thoughts come so quickly that we think they are normal. But slowly, something happens. Our mind becomes full. Not with big problems, but with many small worries, small pressure, small doubts. And the problem is, they don't help, but they don't leave either.
I used to feel like this a lot. Even on days when nothing was wrong, I still felt tired. Not physically, but mentally, like my mind never really rested. And I didn't understand why. Until one day, I asked myself a very simple question. What am I thinking about all the time? And the answer surprised me. I was almost never thinking about now. I was thinking about the past. Things I should have done better. Things I wish I could change. Or I was thinking about the future. What might go wrong? What I need to fix? What I'm afraid of? And I realized something important. My body was here, but my mind was not. And this is one of the fastest ways to lose your peace. Because when your mind lives in the past, you feel regret. When your mind lives in the future, you feel anxiety. And when you stay in both for too long, it slowly becomes a habit, like a quiet virus. You don't see it. You don't notice it at first, but it spreads. It takes your attention away from the present. It uses your energy. It makes simple moments feel heavy. And the worst part is, you start to believe this is normal. That it's normal to always worry, normal to always think ahead, normal to never fully rest. But it's not. Your mind was not designed to carry yesterday and tomorrow at the same time. That's why you feel tired, even when nothing is wrong. Some thoughts feel like they are yours, but they are not. And the difficult part is, they sound very real and very personal. The voice that says, you are not good enough. The feeling that you always need to do more. The quiet fear that people are judging you. These thoughts don't feel like something you learned. They feel like the truth. So you listen to them, and over time you start to believe them. But most of the time, these thoughts didn't start with you. You picked them up slowly, from school where you were compared, from social media where everyone seems ahead, from people around you who are also carrying their own fears. And without noticing, these thoughts become part of your daily thinking. I used to believe them too. I thought if I worked harder, pushed more, and improved faster, I would finally feel enough. But no matter how much I did, that feeling never stayed. Because the problem was not my effort. It was the belief behind it. And this is where many people get stuck. We believe every thought in our mind is true. We think every uncomfortable feeling means something is wrong with us. We think if we feel behind, then we must be behind. But often that is not reality. It is just a pattern. A repeated way of thinking that your mind got used to. Sometimes your mind is trying to protect you, trying to keep you safe, but it does it by creating fear, pressure, and doubt. The thought, I am not good enough, feels very personal. But if you look closely, it is actually very general. It could belong to anyone. It usually comes from something you heard before, maybe many times, not from who you truly are now. The thought, I need to do more, sounds like motivation, but often it comes from fear, not from clarity. And the fear of being judged feels strong, but in reality, most people are too busy thinking about themselves to watch you that closely. But when you don't question these thoughts, you start to live inside them. You follow them. You make choices based on them. And slowly they become heavy. Not because they are true, but because you never stop to ask a very simple question. Is this really me? And maybe that is the beginning. Not fighting your thoughts, not forcing yourself to change, but just noticing that not every voice in your mind belongs to you. Imagine your room. When everything is messy, you feel tired. Even if you just woke up. Clothes everywhere. Things you don't use but still keep. Some are from the past. Some you keep just in case. And slowly, the room starts to feel heavy. Not because the room is small, but because there is too much inside it. Your mind is the same. Old thoughts, old worries, memories you keep replaying. Things that already happened, but you still carry them. And at the same time, worries about the future. What if this goes wrong? What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? So your mind is full, not just with now, but with yesterday and tomorrow. And when your mind is like that, it becomes very hard to be here. You can't fully enjoy a quiet moment. You can't feel peace, even when nothing is wrong. Because your attention is not in the present. It is either stuck in the past or running into the future. And that's why you feel tired, even when you are doing nothing. Letting go is not cleaning the whole room in one day, because that would only make you more stressed. Letting go is something much softer. It is just picking up one thing and putting it away. Maybe today you choose one thought, I should have done better, and you gently say, that moment is over. Then maybe another, what if I fail tomorrow? And you say, tomorrow is not here yet. You don't fight the thoughts. You don't push them away. You just stop holding them, one by one. And something very small begins to change. Your room feels a little more open. Your mind feels a little more quiet. And for the first time, you can actually feel this moment. The light, the silence, your breath, not yesterday, not tomorrow, just now, and maybe that's where peace was all along. Many people think growth means adding more habits, more discipline, more effort. Always trying to become better, faster, stronger. But sometimes, real growth is the opposite. It is removing pressure, removing thoughts that are not yours, removing the need to always be better. Because when you slowly remove what is not you, something very quiet appears. Space. And in that space, you can finally breathe, think clearly, and feel what is real. So tonight, before you sleep, try something simple. Close your eyes. Take a slow breath and ask yourself, what am I still holding right now? Not everything. Just one thing. One thought from the past. One worry about the future. And gently put it down. You don't need to solve it. You don't need to fix it. Just stop holding it for a moment. And notice what happens. Your mind becomes a little quieter. Your body feels a little lighter. And for a brief moment, nothing is missing. Nothing is urgent. Nothing is wrong. Just this moment as it is. And maybe growth was never about becoming more. Maybe it was always about learning what to let go. There is a moment when you stop and look at your life and quietly feel that something is missing. Not because you are not trying. Not because you are not working hard. But because it seems like everyone else is already ahead. They have direction. They have success. They have something you are still looking for. And slowly, without noticing, you begin to believe that you are late. But maybe the truth is much simpler than that. Maybe your life is not late. It is just moving at a different pace. Like in the story of the tortoise and the hare, everything at the beginning made it look like the hare would win easily. He was faster, more confident, always ahead, while the tortoise was slow, quiet, and far behind.
And if you only looked at the middle of the race, you would think the tortoise had no chance. That he was too slow. Too late. But the story was never about who started fast. It was about who kept moving at the right pace. And in the end, the tortoise still reached the finish line. Not because he was better, but because he stayed consistent in his own rhythm. And maybe your life is the same. Maybe it does not matter how fast others are moving. What matters is that you keep going. Step by step. At your own pace. Because moving slowly does not mean you are falling behind. It simply means you are growing in a different way. And you can see this clearly in nature. Some of the most beautiful flowers bloom at completely different times. Cherry blossoms appear early in spring, soft and brief, blooming only for a short moment when the weather is still cool. Sunflowers come later in summer, growing tall under strong sunlight, taking time to reach their full height before they open wide and bright. And chrysanthemums bloom even later, in autumn, when the air becomes cooler again, quietly opening when many other flowers have already faded. Flowers do not compare themselves to other flowers. They just bloom. And the reason they bloom at different times is not because one is faster or better than the others, but because each flower depends on different conditions, temperature, sunlight, environment. Each one has its own natural timing written into its growth. And in the same way, your life also depends on many invisible conditions. Your experiences, your struggles, your learning, your environment, all shaping your path in ways you may not fully see yet. So just because your moment has not arrived does not mean it will not come. It simply means you are still growing, quietly, in your own season. And if you look closely at real life, you will see this everywhere. Some people succeed early, but later in life, they lose everything and have to start again. Some people feel lost in their 20s, but slowly build something strong and meaningful in their 40s or 50s. Some people get married very young, but realize they were not ready. And some people take more time, find the right person later, and stay together for the rest of their lives. And when you see these stories side by side, something becomes very clear. There is no single timeline that works for everyone. Take the story of Colonel Harlan Sanders. For most of his life, he struggled. He worked many different jobs. He failed again and again. By the time he was in his 60s, many people would think it was too late to start anything new. Too late to succeed. Too late to change his life. But that was exactly when his journey truly began. At the age of 65, he started sharing his fried chicken recipe. He traveled from place to place, facing rejection many times. But he did not stop. And slowly, step by step, he built what would later become KFC, one of the most well-known brands in the world. If he had believed that he was too late, his story would have ended very differently. And maybe this is what we often forget. We look at someone's success, but we do not see their timeline. We only see the result, not the years of waiting, trying, and starting over. So when you feel like you are behind, remember this. Life does not follow one schedule. It unfolds in many different ways. Some people arrive early. Some arrive later. But that does not make one life better than another. It simply means each life has its own timing. And maybe the hardest part is not being behind, but not knowing where you are going.
There is a quiet kind of confusion that many people carry every day. You wake up, you go through your routine, you do what you are supposed to do, but deep inside, something feels unclear. You are trying, but you are not sure if you are trying the right thing. You are moving, but you do not know if you are moving in the right direction. And that feeling can be exhausting. Sometimes it feels like everyone else has a map. They know where they are going. They have a clear goal, a clear plan, a clear future. And you look at your own life and all you see are questions. What should I do? What am I good at? What is the right path for me? And the more you think about it, the more lost you feel, and maybe you have tried many things already. Maybe you started something with hope, but it did not work out. Maybe you changed directions more than once. Maybe you felt excited in the beginning, but then slowly lost motivation. And now you are not just confused, you are also tired. Tired of starting again. Tired of not knowing. Tired of feeling like you should have figured it out by now. But here is something I want you to hear very clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. Feeling lost does not mean you are failing. It means you are searching. And searching is not a waste of time. It is part of the process. In fact, many people who eventually find a meaningful path do not find it quickly. They go through uncertainty. They try things that do not work. They take wrong turns. And for a long time, their life does not look impressive from the outside. But inside, something important is happening. They are learning. They are discovering what they like, what they do not like, what matters to them, and what does not. And this kind of learning cannot be rushed. It cannot be forced. It only comes through experience, through time, through living. So if you feel like you are still trying to figure things out, you are not alone. You are not behind. You are in the middle of becoming. And even if it feels slow, even if it feels unclear, even if it feels frustrating, it is still progress. Quiet progress. Invisible progress. But real progress. And maybe one day you will look back at this time in your life. This confusing, uncertain, uncomfortable time. And you will realize it was not wasted. It was preparing you. It was shaping you. It was guiding you, step by step, to a path that truly belongs to you. So take a deep breath and be a little kinder to yourself today. You do not need to have everything figured out right now. You do not need to move as fast as others. What matters is that you keep going, gently, honestly, at your own pace. Trust that your life is unfolding in ways you may not fully understand yet. Trust that the time you spend learning, trying, and even struggling is not wasted. It is building something inside you. And one day, it will all make sense. One day, you will arrive. Not because you rushed, but because you stayed, you tried, and you believed. Have you ever felt like you are trying so hard, but nothing really changes? You work, you try, you put in effort, but somehow other people keep moving ahead. They get better opportunities, better recognition, better results, while you feel stuck in the same place. And the hardest part is not that you are lazy. It's that you don't understand what is missing. You start to doubt yourself. You wonder if you are not good enough, or if life is just unfair. But what if the problem is not your effort? What if the real difference is something quieter? Something most people don't see? Because in reality, opportunities don't just come randomly. They often follow value. And if that's true, then the question is not, why am I stuck?
But what value am I building right now? And today, let's talk about that. How you can start increasing your value in a simple and real way, starting from where you are. There is a quiet pattern behind all of this, and many people don't see it at first. In your work, in your relationships, and even in your opportunities, things don't move randomly. They often move based on one simple thing: the value you create. It may not happen immediately, and it may not always feel fair, but over time, life tends to respond to what you bring. When you develop a skill that is useful, people begin to notice. When you truly listen and understand others, your relationships naturally become stronger. And when you focus on solving problems instead of just pointing them out, you become someone others can trust and depend on. That is when things start to change. Not suddenly, but gradually. More responsibility comes to you. Better opportunities appear. People start to choose you. And instead of always asking why things are not working, you begin to see a different question. What am I building right now that creates real value? Because once that becomes clear, your direction also becomes clearer, and your growth becomes much more intentional. And there is something even more powerful than that. Your inner value is something no one can take away from you. Money can be lost. A job can change. Opportunities can disappear. These things come and go. But what stays with you is different. The skills you have learned, the way you think, the way you solve problems. These things become a part of you. And no matter where you go, you take them with you. That's why when life becomes difficult, some people can start again, much faster than others. Not because they are luckier, but because they have built something inside, something stable, something strong. So even if they lose everything outside, they still have something to stand on, and slowly, they build their life again from a stronger place than before. There are two kinds of confidence, but many people don't realize the difference. The first kind is false confidence. It comes from outside, from compliments, from status, from how you look, or how other people see you. And because it depends on the outside, it can disappear very quickly. When people stop praising you, when your situation changes, or when someone seems better than you, that confidence starts to shake. But there is another kind of confidence. A much deeper one. Real confidence. This kind does not come from what you have, it comes from who you are becoming. It is built from your skills, your effort, your understanding, and your inner value. And when you truly know your value, something very interesting happens. You stop comparing yourself too much. You don't feel the need to prove yourself all the time, and you worry less about what other people think. Because deep down, you already know where you stand. And that makes you feel calmer, more stable, and stronger in a very natural way. Opportunities often find people who have value, even if we don't always notice it. In reality, capable people are not always the ones chasing opportunities. Many times, opportunities come to them. When you write well, someone may invite you to write. When you are reliable in your work, people want to collaborate with you. When your thinking is clear, you are trusted with bigger responsibilities. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens because you have built something that others can see and feel. Your value becomes a signal. It tells people that you can help, that you can deliver, that you can be trusted. And over time, that value starts to work like a magnet. It quietly attracts the right opportunities,
the right people, and the right paths into your life. So instead of always asking where the next opportunity is, it may be more powerful to ask how you can grow your value. Because when your value becomes strong enough, opportunities don't need to be chased. They begin to find you. When you increase your value, you don't just help yourself, you also help others in a very natural way. When you share your knowledge, someone else can learn. When you do your work well, the whole system works better. When you live with a positive mindset, you spread a better energy to the people around you. And slowly, life starts to feel different. It is no longer just about surviving or getting through the day. It becomes about contributing, about giving something meaningful to the world around you. And here is a simple way to understand it. Increasing your value is not about becoming better than other people. It is not a competition. It is about becoming a better version of yourself. A little clearer, a little stronger, a little more useful each day. And when you grow in that way, the impact you create also grows. Not only for your own life, but for everyone around you. So how do you actually start increasing your value in a real and simple way? Not someday, not when you feel ready, but starting today. Let's make it very clear. There are 4 things you can begin with. First, build a skill that creates real value. Don't try to learn everything. Just pick one skill that can actually help you in real life. For example, if you choose writing, start by writing 1 short post every day, even just 150 to 200 words. If you choose communication, practice explaining one idea clearly to a friend or even recording yourself speaking. If you choose problem solving, take one small problem from your work and try to find a better solution instead of just doing it the usual way. The key is not how big the skill is, it's that you practice it daily. Because skill grows through repetition. And over time, this is what makes you more useful and harder to replace. Second, upgrade the way you think. When something goes wrong, most people react immediately. They complain, they feel frustrated, or they blame the situation. But you can train yourself to pause, even just for a few seconds, and ask 2 simple questions. What is really happening here? And what is the best next step I can take? For example, if a task is unclear, instead of feeling stuck, you can list what you know, what you don't know, and what you need to ask. This small habit helps you move from reacting to thinking clearly, and clear thinking is rare, which makes it extremely valuable. Third, become someone people can trust. This sounds simple, but very few people do it well. Start with small actions. If you say you will finish something today, finish it. If you promise to send a file at 3 p.m., send it on time. Check your work one more time before you submit. Fix small mistakes. Reply to messages clearly instead of leaving people confused. These small details may seem unimportant, but they build a strong signal. People begin to feel that they can rely on you. And once trust is built, more opportunities naturally come. And fourth, never stop learning. But keep it simple and consistent. You don't need to study for hours. You can read 5 to 10 pages a day. Watch one useful video. Or learn one small concept and try to apply it immediately. For example, if you learn a new way to write emails, use it in your next email. If you learn a new tool, Try it on a small task. Learning becomes powerful only when you use it. And when you keep learning and applying, you slowly become better without even noticing. And here is the most important part. You don't need to change everything overnight. You don't need to become a completely different person. You just need to start gently from where you are and take one small step each day. I know sometimes it feels slow. Sometimes it feels like nothing is really changing. But trust me, what you repeat every day is quietly shaping who you are becoming. Your skills, your mindset, your strength inside. And one day, maybe sooner than you think, you will look back and realize you are not the same person anymore. You are calmer, clearer, stronger. Not because of one big moment, but because you chose not to give up on yourself, even in the small, quiet days. So don't rush. Don't compare. Just keep going at your own pace. And if you ever feel lost, or tired, or just need a quiet space to come back to yourself, you can always come back here to Heal and Grow podcast. Maybe just a few minutes each night to slow down, to reflect, and to gently build that inner strength. A little more every single day. Hi, my friend, and welcome back to the Heal and Grow podcast, where we grow gently, one small thought at a time. Today, I want to talk about something that almost all of us try to avoid in life. Problems. No one wakes up in the morning and hopes to have a hard day. We all want things to be easier, less stressful, and more under control. But what if the things you are trying to avoid are actually the things helping you grow? Instead of starting with ideas, let me tell you about a movie that stayed in my mind for a long time. It is called The Pursuit of Happiness. It is a true story about a man named Chris Gardner and a time in his life when everything seemed to fall apart. At the beginning, Chris was just a normal person. He had a family, a young son, and a dream to build a better future. But then, things went wrong. He used all his money to sell medical machines, but no one wanted to buy them. Slowly, he started to lose everything. Bills kept coming. Stress kept growing. His wife, feeling tired and overwhelmed, decided to leave. And suddenly, Chris was alone, taking care of his son, with almost nothing. They lost their home. They had no stable place to live. Some nights, they stayed in shelters. Some nights, they had nowhere to go. There is one scene that many people never forget. Chris and his son hiding in a public restroom. He locks the door and tells his son it is just a game, while someone is knocking outside. It is a quiet, but very painful moment. You can feel how tired he is, how scared he is, and how much pressure he is carrying. And if many of us were in that situation, we might stop. We might feel like it is too much. But Chris did not stop. He decided to apply for an internship at a stock company, a job with no salary, where only one person would be chosen at the end. Even so, he kept going. Every day, he moved from place to place, trying to survive and follow his dream at the same time. He worked harder than others. He used every small chance he had. He showed up, even when he was tired, even when he was afraid, even when life gave him many reasons to quit. And slowly, step by step,
his life began to change. After watching this movie, I sat quietly for a long time, and I realized something simple, but very real. Chris did not move forward because his life was easy. He moved forward, even when his life was falling apart. And maybe that is why this story stayed with me. Because it reminded me of something we often hear. There is a famous quote you have probably heard before. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. At first, it sounds very powerful. It makes us believe that every difficult moment will automatically turn us into a stronger person. And in some way, it is true. But I think this idea is missing something important. Because not every hard experience makes you stronger by itself. Some moments can leave you feeling tired, confused, or even stuck. Just going through something difficult does not always change you. What really makes the difference is what you do after that moment. Do you give up? Or do you keep going? Do you avoid it? Or do you try to understand it? Do you carry the pain? Or do you learn something from it? Strength does not come from the difficulty alone. It comes from your choice to continue, to reflect, and to grow. So maybe a more complete way to say it is this. What doesn't kill you can make you stronger if you choose to learn from it. And maybe that is also the difference between people who feel stuck and people who slowly move forward. If you look at your own life, you may notice something. When a problem happens, your first thought is often, how can I make this go away? A mistake, a failure, an unexpected situation. We do not want it. We want to fix it quickly or avoid it. And this is normal. No one likes feeling uncomfortable. No one likes feeling unsure or out of control. But if you look a little deeper, especially from psychology, you may see something different. The human brain is made to adapt. And to adapt, it needs challenge. Without difficulty, there is very little growth. You cannot build patience when everything is easy. You cannot learn emotional control when nothing upsets you. You cannot become flexible when everything goes as planned. Many important skills only grow when we face something hard. Many people believe a good life is smooth life, a life without problems. But if you look back at your life, was it really the easy moments that changed you? Or was it the moments when you felt lost? When you made mistakes and had to stand up and try again, that slowly made you stronger? I'm sure that if you think about it honestly, the moments that shaped you the most were not the comfortable ones. They were the times you did not know what to do, but still chose to move forward. The times you felt unsure, but did not stop. The times things did not go your way, but you learned something important from it. Because growth does not happen when everything is easy. It happens when life challenges you, and you decide not to give up on yourself. Maybe problems are not stopping your progress. Maybe they are part of your progress. Every problem makes you pause, think again, and adjust. In a way, difficulty is information. It shows you what is not working, what needs to change, and what you did not see before.
Learning from problems starts with a small change in how you see them. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you can gently ask, "What is this teaching me?" This does not mean you must like the problem or pretend it is easy. It simply means you are open to learning from it. In psychology, this is called reframing. When you change the meaning of an experience, you change how you feel about it. The situation may stay the same, but your inner experience becomes different. If you see a problem as proof that you are not good enough, you will feel discouraged. But if you see it as part of learning, you will feel curious and keep going. Over time, this small shift creates a big change. You become less afraid of problems. You do not panic when things go wrong. You become calmer and more flexible. And most importantly, you start to trust yourself. You begin to believe, "I can handle this." And when you believe that, you are no longer stuck. You start moving again. Not because life is easier, but because you are stronger. If one day you look back at your life, you may see that your most important lessons did not come from easy days. They came from confusion, from mistakes, from moments when you did not know what to do next. So, if you're facing a problem right now, do not rush to push it away. Do not quickly decide that everything is bad. Pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and gently ask yourself, "What can I learn from this?" Before we go further, let me ask you something. Everyone says, a small choice can change your whole life. But what does that actually mean? What is that small choice? Is it waking up earlier? Working harder? Being more disciplined? Or is it something much simpler than that? Because what if the choice that changes your life is not about doing more, but about stopping one thing you keep repeating every day? There is a quote I've been thinking about a lot lately. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And honestly, I didn't really understand this quote before. I thought it was about extreme situations, big mistakes, or dramatic life changes. But recently, I started to see it in a much quieter way. Not in big decisions, but in small, everyday choices. A while ago, I found myself in a place that looked completely fine from the outside. I had a stable path, a clear routine, and nothing was seriously wrong. But inside, there was a quiet feeling that kept coming back. Not loud, not urgent, just a small question appearing in random moments. Is this really the direction I want? I didn't have a clear answer. So like many people, I ignored it. I told myself I would think about it later when I had more time, when I felt more ready. But that later never really came, because my days kept filling themselves with the same choices. And that's when I realized something important. Your life is not shaped by what you think about once in a while. It is shaped by what you do every day without thinking. The small repeated choices that feel too normal to question are the ones that quietly build your future. When you wake up and immediately check your phone, that is a choice. When you feel tired and decide to scroll instead of rest, that is a choice. When you postpone something meaningful because it feels uncomfortable, that is also a choice. None of these moments feel important, but when you repeat them every day, they become a pattern. And that pattern becomes your life. This is why many people feel stuck, even when nothing is obviously wrong. It is not because they are making terrible decisions. It is because they are making the same decisions over and over again. The same habits, the same reactions, the same way of spending time. And slowly, without realizing it, they create a life that feels predictable but not fulfilling. They keep hoping for change, but they are not creating the conditions for change. And this is where that quote becomes real. Not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, everyday way. Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. For me, this became very clear when I started looking at my own choices. I was following a path that made sense, something stable and familiar. At the same time, I was creating content about personal growth, emotions, and living a more intentional life. It started as something small, something I did when I had time. But over time, I noticed a difference. On days when I chose to create, even just a little, I felt more connected to myself. Not more successful, not more productive, but more aligned. On days when I didn't, everything was still fine. But something felt slightly off. Not wrong, just not right. That contrast changed the way I saw things. I realized that the direction of your life is not decided by one big decision. It is decided by the small choices you repeat most often. And that is both uncomfortable and empowering. Uncomfortable, because it means you cannot blame everything on circumstances. But empowering, because it means you don't need to change everything at once. You only need to change what you repeat. The problem is, small choices don't feel powerful. They don't feel like progress. They don't give you immediate results. And because of that, we underestimate them. We think change has to be big, visible, and fast. But real change is quiet. It happens in moments that don't look important. It happens when you don't feel motivated. It happens when no one is watching. So what is that small choice? It's not a big action. It's not a perfect habit. It's the moment you pause and don't do what you always do. When you feel tired and instead of scrolling, you rest. When you want to delay something and instead, you start just a little. When you feel uncomfortable and instead of avoiding, you stay. That's it. That's the small choice. It looks simple, almost too simple. But it is powerful. Because it breaks the pattern. And once you break a pattern, even once, you create the possibility of a new one. And if you repeat that new choice, again and again, it becomes part of you. Think about it like this. Imagine you go to the gym for the first time. You spend 1 hour exercising. You feel tired, maybe even proud of yourself. But the next day, nothing looks different. No visible change. And this is where many people stop. Because the effort feels real, but the result feels invisible. But something has already started. Your body is adapting. And if you continue day after day, there will be a moment when the change becomes visible. Not because of one workout, but because of many. Learning a language works in the same way. In the beginning, everything feels difficult. You listen, but you don't understand. Words sound too fast, sentences feel confusing, and sometimes you feel like you're not making any progress at all. You try to remember vocabulary, but you forget it quickly. And after a few days, it's easy to think, maybe this is not working for me. But something is happening even if you don't see it yet. Every time you listen, your brain is slowly getting familiar with the sounds. Every word you learn, even if you forget it later, is still building a foundation. And then, one day, something small changes. You start to recognize a few words in a sentence. You begin to catch simple phrases. You don't understand everything, but you can guess the meaning. And that moment feels different. Because suddenly, it's not just noise anymore. It starts to make sense. And from that point, everything becomes a little easier. You learn faster. You understand more. You feel more confident. Not because you changed everything overnight, but because you stayed long enough to build something underneath. Your life works in the same way. The small choices you make every day may not show results immediately. But beneath the surface, something is changing. Your mindset, your habits, your identity. And if you keep going, there will be a moment when you realize you are no longer the same person. Not because of one big decision, but because you stopped repeating the old ones. So if you feel stuck right now, don't look for a big solution. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just look at your next choice. And ask yourself, am I repeating my old self? Or choosing something slightly different? Because your life tomorrow is not built by what you hope for today. It is built by what you choose. Again and again, starting now.